Today's episode, OnlyFans.
They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go. They can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go. They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. It go. They can't see me like Houdini, Lamborghini. It go.
Welcome to Misbehaving Women, where we unapologetically dive into the issues that matter most to women, from wellness to feminism and everything in between. No sugarcoating, no filter.
We're here to spark conversations about the real life challenges we face, the topics that often get swept under the rug, and the ones men need to hear about if they want to truly support the women in their lives.
I'm Kelli Taylor, a best-selling author, award-winning acupuncturist, and hormone coach for women's health. I'm passionate about helping women live their best and healthiest lives.
I'm Rebecca McMillan, founder of Worthfulness.com, an online self-guided program that teaches teen girls and young women real tools and concepts they use to support unshakable self-worth for life. Together, we're here to shake things up and have some...
I make some real. Sorry. Okay, so
do that again.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Together, we're here to shake things up and have some real, no BS conversations. So, OnlyFans episode, here we are. We've been teasing it a little bit, and we're finally releasing it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear the comments.
Yes,
and feedback.
Me too, yeah. We've maybe said a couple controversial, but some people might find it controversial. Yeah. Some of our takes, I mean, I stand by them, but
yeah, I don't know.
See. We'll see.
We'll definitely see.
If we were more famous, I might be worried about being canceled, but we're fine. So the biggest, most exciting thing is Kelli did the cruise that we talked about her going on and admitting that she's not a cruise person. Yeah. She's back.
And I am back. And yeah, and you may notice my voice. I've had laryngitis. I'm at the end of it, so it's good. But yeah, the trip overall, I'm going to say overall, the trip was great. It was a lot of fun. It definitely had its ups and downs. It started out rough. It started out super rough because the waters were rough. And
literally rough seas.
We have rough seas for 4 days.
Oh my God.
4 days. And I got seasick. Seasick to the point where my ginger Gravols were not working. And I had to pull out the big guns. And then that just knocked me on my ass. Like I slept almost an entire day because...
But that is better. When you're seasick, you're like, make me unconscious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I wasn't alone. So if I can say this, like in our group, we kind of took turns being seasick. So it was a thing. And it was not fun. But I got through it. So I can't remember if it was day 4 or day 5 when the sea kind of
I think
calmed.
It was day 5.
Yeah, and it finally calmed. And during this whole time, I'm texting Becky.
That's why I was like, I know it was 5 days, because every day I would say, oh my God, the boat's still rocking. Everyone still seasick to Paul.
Yeah, and some days it was just like there was a lot of whitecaps, and other days it was literally, it was waves hitting the boat, and we're just rocking side to side. I don't know how people do it.
That makes me feel nauseous just you saying that.
Yeah, it was something. And laying in bed, it was very bizarre because it always felt like when you're walking through the ship that you're going side to side. But when I would lay in bed, it was going front to back. And it was the most bizarre thing. And I would lay in bed being like, I don't know if I can stay in bed. It was the most bizarre feeling.
Yeah, that's
and awful. I lived off 10 days on that ship. I lived off Gravol. It was brutal. Yeah,
Kelli.
I definitely, and not the powerful stuff. I only took the powerful stuff once and then realized that, I may not see the trip because it really knocks you on your ass. Like I was thinking, if you have insomnia, that's the way to go. Because I was out. But I did live off the ginger for sure because that was quite...
And it really helped.
Yeah, it did. It definitely helped. And it was more about the nausea that I had that kept coming up. I wanted to work out on the ship way more than I did.
Yeah,
Not possible.
Presumably everyone on the boat would have felt that way.
I'm assuming so, but the first day I got to the gym, it was packed. It was 6 a.m. and I thought I'm gonna get there. There'll be nobody there. It's perfect time to work out. There was more people in that gym than there was at the buffet. Like I just like, what is going on? Finally got a machine, got on it, and it was. I was kept saying, I'm not sure I can stay on this. Like I would have to stop it and have my feet to the side because I was on the treadmill. And I'm watching as the treadmill is just going side to side.
Because they have them looking out the front.
They have them looking out. And I'm just like, is this going to be? And I think from working out and then afterwards, and then I did my usual workout. And yeah, about an hour or so after. And then I tried to have breakfast afterwards.
Whoa.
Couldn't do that. That was not happening.
Adventurous.
And then I would say within an hour or so of that, that's when the nausea hit. And yeah, and then it was game on for about 4 days. So
Wow.
is what it is. So
I know when my parents did that cruise, it was like the whole boat was seasick except my dad. And he'd go to the dining room and he was the only one there. And he'd have to go to the kitchen and say, could I please get something to eat? Like, because no one, yeah. So I think it must be common on that, Vancouver to Hawaii.
I don't know. Well, you're in open seas for 5 days.
There were hurricanes going on in Florida.
Yeah, it really was. For me, it was wild. Maybe for somebody who's seasoned traveler on cruises, maybe that's not a thing for them. But for me, holy smokes.
And I have huge empathy. I get seasick on anything smaller than a cruise ship. Even on the ferry, I can get seasick. I can't go on a little boat. When I was in New Zealand, I really went to go see the dolphins. You swim with the dolphins, and me and my friend were there, and it was quite rocky. And this is like young and dumb. And I said to the captain, "Do you think I'll be okay?" And he goes, "Oh, when you get out there, it's fine. It's calmer." That's not true.
That's not true.
And he goes, "You'll be fine. You look at the horizon." And I so desperately wanted to do it, which, by the way, now I would be against. I don't know if I don't think we should be out there trying to find the dolphins and swim with them. But I did it. It was pure torture. My friend took photos of me. She thought it was hilarious. I'm like hanging over the side of the boat puking. And in my head, I'm so desperate. I'm thinking, because I just started my year-long way. If I gave him all the money in my bank account, would he just drop me on shore right now? I wanted to just say, please, I see land. Pull over there. I'll give you all the money I have. And I was legitimately like, you're so desperate. You're at your knees. That moment. When it's just like, make it stop. It's
Please
torture.
Make it stop. Yeah,
so I'm sorry, I can't believe you had that for 5 days.
It was a little bit brutal, but then once it mellowed out, it's nice, right? Like you can walk around the ship, you don't have to, try and navigate every step, so that was kind of nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we had a system. We did the casinos at nighttime, so that was a lot of fun. We went on, and I say this, so we went on superstitions and rituals. So the 3 girls, we would put $20 in each. And the first, I'm not a gambler. It's not really, I don't know. For me, that's not how I would like to.
It's not entertaining.
It's not entertaining. And it's also, I think I might as well just go give them my $20.
Absolutely. You
Here,
have to
take
see it as entertainment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't do it.
I know. So everybody's gambling. I'm not. And the last cruise I went on with this group, I didn't gamble at all. So this time everyone's like, you could gamble. And I'm like, no, not really. It's not my jam. So then I think to entice me, when my friend said, well, why don't we each put $20 in and we'll play one machine? So I'm thinking, do I want to do that? And I thought, okay, well, it's $20, whatever. Okay, fine. No problem. So we put $20 in, and then so my friend's name is Lisa. So I love her because she reads the machines. And I think this is a skill. I know people are going to say this is just bullshit, whatever. So she's showing me how to read the different machines and which machines might hit.
Do you mean energetically?
No.
What do you mean?
You read them so you can see, I don't even know if I can explain this, but you can see how much the last person has put into the machine. So each machine has a different game. And so you'll see some machines are loaded up and they're ready to pay out sooner than other ones. It's a thing. I don't know. We'll have her on so she can explain her whole
As somebody
thing
who worked in the casino industry when I was young, I can tell you that is not true.
Well, she also worked in the casinos. So anyway, so we're looking at the machines, which one we think is going to pay out sooner than another one.
Yeah.
So she did her thing. She picked the machines. We each put our $20 in, and then she told me a lot. Like, she taught me how to read the machine. So we're doing that. And then she said, when people gamble, there's a lot of superstitions. People have a lot of rituals that they do. Yeah. So I'm like, great, right down my alley. I love superstitions. I'm a huge fan of rituals. Let's make our own. So that's what we did.
Fun.
$20 in each, and we started winning.
Nice.
And we would lose. I'm not going to say we didn't lose. We did. But in the end, we came out on top with way more money than what we put in. So that was a huge bonus.
Wow.
And I really got into it.
Yeah.
You had all fun. She had to say was superstition and rituals, and you've got me. That's it. Those are the key words.
That's what they know.
You want me to buy into something, just say rituals, superstition, and I'm there. So that's what we did.
That's
and
amazing.
It was so much fun. We laughed so hard. Amazing. And then my one friend, I don't know, maybe she's hard of hearing. I'm not going to say for sure. The machine had to be on full blast. Everyone knew when we were winning. It was not like our little group knew. Yeah. So we definitely brought in crowds of people with us as we won. So that was a lot.
Casino thanked you.
Yeah, it was a lot of laughter. It was a lot of being happy to cash in the checks. Yeah.
That's the fun part.
Checks, whatever you want to call it. So... yeah,
that's amazing.
That was a lot of fun. I will say that was a highlight, one of the many highlights, because we laughed a ton. And then we were like, oh no, we're not keeping with our superstition. Oh no. So we kept changing our cards, like who was going to have the card in. And then we had a system of who was going to press the button next, who's pushing what buttons based on where you're sitting.
Wow.
The person in the middle had to change all the time. Like we had our system
That's
down.
a lot. Okay.
Yeah. And I kept everybody in check. Okay, we've got to change this because we got to keep with our superstitions and rituals. So, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And then, of course, the best always is, you get to dry land. You want to kiss it. So happy to see it.
After your journey, yes.
Yeah, it was great. And we went to Kona. So I loved Kona. Beautiful. And went to Hilo too. So got to see the volcano. That was pretty cool.
Did you sleep on the volcano?
We did. Yeah, okay. That was. Now, I got the emails with what we were doing. So I'm going to say I take responsibility. I saw the emails. It's not like I didn't know I was going to stay at these accommodations, shall I phrase it? But seeing them was so much different than actually, I called them wooden tents. It was like an A-frame from the 1960s, maybe. I don't know. It was something. I'm not going to lie. It was something.
Like they have at the parks here for camping? Like the
they're camping.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the volcano?
Well, no, it's like around the volcano. There's a hotel.
What?
So the whole time I'm like, why didn't we just stay in the hotel with a bed? Not that the wooden tent didn't have a bed. It did. It had a bunk bed, which I was terrified if I got up to go to the washroom, I would forget where I was and hit my head really hard because it was very low.
It's a common bunk injury.
Yes. So that was interesting. And my friend Elliot, I think that's going to be burned into my memory forever. So he was very displeased with having to stay in what I referred to as the wooden tent. And So Lisa and I had a bet, and I said to her, I bet you anything, in the morning, Elliot will be out at the car with his suitcase. So and we killed ourselves laughing because he was very, let's just say, not disgruntled, but he wasn't really happy with the wooden
Who
tent.
wanted this? Who booked it?
Well, I'm sure I'm not going to, apparently we all did because we all agreed on it. So that I'm going to say we all did because we all agreed on it.
There were 4 of you and 2 of you didn't like it.
I think it's different when you see it.
Okay.
So pulling up to it, I'm like, who the hell booked this? And I wasn't alone in those thoughts. But anyway, and on top of that, it was so cold. It was so cold. There is no words for the amount of discomfort I was in all night in this wooden tent, because the windows are screens. So the cold is coming into the wooden tent. And I am in there. I've got socks. I've got sweatpants on because I brought sweatpants.
Thank God.
I brought a tank top, a sweatshirt. Then I had a sweater. And I am so grateful that I anticipated that it would be a bit cold, that I brought my puffer jacket that's, the ones that are really thin, that bunch up really small.
Yep.
I had that on under the sheets with a duvet on, and I was shivering. I was so cold. Oh, and I slept with the toque on too. So I was.
Are you in a sleeping bag or bedding?
No, we're in bed. We're in a bed. Yeah,
okay.
It's a bed. So it was very, very cold. Woke up in the morning. It was very early. And I look at my phone. I've already got a text from Elliot saying, we're up. We're ready to go. So I am already laughing. Wow. I open my door and there he is with a suitcase walking to the car. I cried. I laughed so hard because you can't not. He was like, he's ready to roll.
Is the person who shall remain nameless, who you think really wanted this, did they enjoy it?
Yeah, two of the four enjoyed it more than the others. Okay. So I'm going to say 2 out of the 4.
That's a big switch to go from the luxury of a cruise ship to a kind of a shack.
Let's just say in that moment, I loved cruising.
Oh, wow.
I could not wait to get back to the cruise ship. Wow. I couldn't.
That's wild. Yeah. Look how the world
there was
works.
Parts of me that wanted to say, just drop me off. I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah. But I didn't, and I'm glad, because we did a whole road trip the next morning. We started out extremely early. We had to find a coffee shop that opened up before 7 because we were on the road before 7. I was really shocked too. Now, I had to go to the washroom because I had drank so much water. I'm so bundled up. I did get up 3 times that night to go to the washroom. There was people, like I went in at one point in time, and I've described what I'm wearing, right? I go into the washroom, and there's this girl coming out of the stall, and she's in it. Well, it wasn't even, it was a crop top and shorts, and she looked at me with the most surprised look, and I looked at her with the most surprised look, and I'm thinking, how are you not freezing to death? And then there was another girl who showered there. There was nothing in me that was ever going to ever shower in that thing. Like, no, never gonna happen. Right. And then they had the locks to the door. There's a lock on the door and they give you the code, but the boys and girls code are the same. So I was never gonna shower in there anyways.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting time, no regrets. Because I can say I camped in a wooden tent and I survived.
At the base of a volcano.
Yes. I will say I had a good time. Once we got we got to Waikiki.
Nice.
Waikiki, love it. Loved it.
Yeah.
Sat on the beach. Yeah, that was more my speed.
Nice.
I'm not going to lie. We did some nice dinners. We did some, hung out in some really nice hotels. Nice. Eating, drinking cocktails.
Now that's a vacation.
That's a vacation. Sitting on the beach, swimming in the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So one of my favorite parts of the trip, in total, I would say this is probably going to be my favorite part, is the reaction to our merchandise on the ship and off the ship.
In Hawaii.
So, no, I did not bring our entire collection. I will say that. But I did bring 2 of our hats, our trucker hats, and I cannot express how much joy that brought people. So whether I was in the elevator, walking the steps, I was in the gym, or whether we were, walking around shopping, people would literally stop me to say, I love your hat. Where'd you get it? So it was so much fun. Or to see, I had one guy, he walked by, he looked at me, he just stopped and he smiled and then he winked at me and then he kept going. And I'm like, so I loved it. I loved how much attention it got. I love that people asked me, where I got it. And I remember saying to you last time that, when I went to get my coffee shop, and I'm really not good at promoting. So I started saying, thank you so much. And I'm like, it's actually a podcast. So that's all I had to say. I didn't have to sell anything. So I thought that was really good.
You said it's a podcast?
Yeah.
You did say it's my podcast?
No, I said it's a podcast. Misbehaving Women's a podcast. And then they'd be like, oh my gosh. And then we start talking. And then in our conversation, obviously they figured out it was, I'm doing the podcast. And so what I loved is that opened so many conversations with women. So one of the women I was sitting beside at dinner, no, I wasn't wearing my hat, but she asked me what I did. So I told her about the podcast. I told her about being an acupuncturist and also had a podcast. And she's like, oh, I love podcasts. So she said, what's your podcast about? So I was telling her about that. And she told me that she went into full menopause, not menopause, menopause at 31. Oh. Yeah, she had her son at 29. And she said it was probably before that because she had her son, which was her last child, and never got her period again.
Oh, interesting.
So interesting. And she didn't know that she was in menopause. She had no idea. She's like, I was 31. Had no idea I was in menopause. And she said that when she found out, she had no one to talk to.
Oh.
Yeah. And this is a woman, I want to say she had to be in her, I want to say mid to late 60s. So, that's old enough. She's not old, but old enough that it's a generation that didn't have anyone to talk to.
30 years ago, you wouldn't have mentioned it. Yeah.
So really interesting.
Wow.
And this is what it did, is it just opened up these conversations with other women and other women sharing their stories. And there was a lot of stories. Like, it was really interesting just to be able to say that there was a podcast. And then I usually talk about the first episode because I'm finding that that's a really good opener to be able to say, we talk about periods and we talk about perimenopause, menopause. Yeah, so I love it. I love that there's more women who are trying to find their people to be able to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stories out there.
Yes.
And a lot of women want to share their stories. They just don't know where to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because that's the thing you hear them like, oh, I felt seen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I really love that a lot.
Yeah.
And I love that if we can encourage women to find other women to be able to share their stories in a safe place and be able to keep this conversation going and allowing people to be able to say, I'm suffering with anxiety. And because I know anxiety was our last episode, and that also has sparked a lot of conversation with a lot of people too. And I've had some DMs and some texts to say, hey, this is what I've been going through, and I haven't had anyone to talk to about it. And they're not seen by their doctors. I think that was the other thing too, is that they're not seen. It's just kind of like, oh, here's a prescription.
Wow.
Yeah, here's a prescription. This hopefully will help you, kind of idea.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and that's not really...
And you're on that forever.
Yeah, and the thing is that, without having the conversation of options for people, rather than just being like, here's a prescription, maybe this will help you.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to instill a lot of confidence. And I get it, doctors aren't counselors, and that, we do need to find the appropriate people to talk to. But I do feel like part of our job is to be able to make people feel heard.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So, so it's been kind of good. And I know you got some DMs
Similar,
too.
yeah, tons. It was shocking to me. And it's funny because, even before that episode went out, I thought, oh my God, am I really releasing this? Because I haven't ever talked about that time in my life to almost anyone. Even my best friend said, oh, I knew you when you were going through that, but I had no idea how bad it was. So to have people, so many people in my life, right, and tell me that they're going through it or they went through it and here's what they did, or someone that they love is going through it and they didn't understand, kind of more like your position where you had a family member. Everyone telling me they felt seen and thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, I really feel that was one of the best things I've ever done in my life, putting that out there from the response I got. I was very, very overwhelmed and I didn't know how to explain the gratitude. And I thought all I did was share my story. And I guess that is what we need to do more of. Because there's this weird, I don't know, why is there shame around it when, I can't remember the numbers now, but it is tens of millions of people have this. Why do we have shame over? I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that was awesome. And the interesting thing for me was almost everyone told me about their security blanket. Because remember, there's a part where I said I carried those pills with me forever, even though I didn't take them. Everyone had their version of a security blanket, even with other things that people trying to quit things. Someone who carried a cigarette with them for 5 years in their pocket, and I thought, as adults, we all have security blankets in some way or another that maybe it's our form of self-soothing as you become an adult. I don't know, but fascinated me that could be a whole thing in itself. What's your safety blanket as an adult? Because everyone has them. That was wonderful, and I am glad that I put it out in the end. And, in whatever way people said that they were helped, that's awesome. So you do the scary thing, I guess, if you're scared to reveal a truth, just because you never know who you're going to help.
Yeah. And like I said to you, it takes a lot of courage to be able to stand in your truth and to be able to allow yourself to open up and be vulnerable, which is what you did.
Yeah.
And then I'm hoping, I don't know, you tell me, but I'm hoping that you get to be felt like you were seen, because I can't imagine that being in a position where you're going through this, but also not sharing. So there's a part of you that's trying to also, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, if I'm not getting this wrong, but just based on what you were saying is that on the outside, you're trying to look normal, for lack of a better way to say it, which I don't know what's normal, but...
Well, you're hiding it anyway. You can.
Yeah. And then on the inside, you've got all this turmoil.
You're tortured.
And you're trying to pretend that you're walking through life like nothing's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But, all of a sudden, you've got these feelings that are so overwhelming. So I hope that you get to feel seen and that you get to feel like there's a part of you that gets to heal by being able to share your story and have people see you for, what you've been through.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that. It's so long ago for me now, so I don't know if I felt the need to feel seen in that. I'd have to think about that.
Okay.
I definitely thought, why didn't I share this more when I was going through it? Why did I feel shame over it? Why was it? Like, a lot of that came up because I thought, oh my God, the people that in my life that have anxiety or dealt with it, I was blown away. Never would have guessed or known. So I guess everybody's hiding it. I don't know, right? Which is wild. So definitely I had a lot of reflection on, wow, I wish I'd shared this earlier. I don't know if I could have when I was going through it, maybe. But to anyone who is suffering with it, at least share it with one friend or family, someone that you trust, because white-knuckling it with all that is really tough.
So question.
Yeah.
Could it be that part of the reason why people, and I'm going to use the word hide it, but in the moment, does it feel like you're actually hiding it, or are you just trying to survive and get through the day? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a really big difference sometimes when people are trying to actually hide something, which in the end, it is what we're doing, but are you conscious of that? Like, I feel like based on the stories that I've heard and the story that you shared, you're just so consumed with just trying to get through the day, getting through the moment, getting through the hour, getting through the day. You don't really have this awareness maybe that is what's happening. I don't know. I'm just food for thought. I don't know.
Yeah. You're definitely, it is, that's the thing, it's not through the day. It's through the moment to moment. When it's really bad, it's get me through this moment, this moment, this moment. Are you aware? Part of it is hiding it though, because when I think back to it, like I said, I didn't really ever have a panic attack, but what would cause me anxiety is the fear of having a panic attack, which who cares? Like, why not have one? You're not going to die from a panic attack. It's more people seeing you have a panic attack. right?
Okay.
And then everybody knows, I guess, because maybe also the loss of control. I don't know. But it's kind of silly now with a rational mind. Of course, these are all irrational fears. And thinking about how much I suffered, yeah, what was I hiding? What was the point of trying to hide? What did I think people would think or judge me? Or why did it matter if people knew I was going through that? It would have made it easier if people knew I was going through that.
Oh, absolutely. Because I feel like when people know that, I mean, at least for me, if someone tells me that they're going through something, it's like you see the person in a completely different way. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And I get to change how I react or how I move forward or the words that I choose. Everything changes because now I'm able to see this is what you can handle. So now I can have more compassion and be able to be like, okay, so that's what they can handle. So then I can move through, and it's not tiptoeing, it's literally being more compassionate and more, I have more empathy and just be able to be like, okay, this is what they're going through. You can give space because you have a better understanding. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yep.
How I feel.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And I love that. Then it's like, okay, now you know. And it's, yeah. And then you have also the option to say, you know, I know that I don't believe we can really help people. People have to help themselves. But what we can do is be able to say, all right, if you need anything, I'm here for you. So then you know somebody's got your back.
Yes. Yeah, that is the best thing to say to someone. Let me know how I can help you right now.
Yeah. Or for somebody to say, listen, this is what I need. So if you have that awareness to be able to say to someone, this is what I'm going through, and this is what I need, maybe in general, or this is what I need from you, that also allows somebody to be able to move through with you.
Yes.
Move with you, not butting heads and...
Right. Or even in the moment, you know, if it's someone close to you, it's like, distract me right now. I need you to distract me from, right? And a friend to just start. I've had to do it with people. You think of any story you could think of just to start telling them to get their mind out of that. Or you start asking them about things that make them switch their course of thought.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So similar to you wearing the merch out in the world, it's so wild. So by where Evie goes to preschool, I'm close to the seawall. So I'm often walking the seawall now in the mornings. So I'm passing a lot of walkers and groups of women. They give me this silent nod of like approval or something. It's wild. Just like a smile and a nod, like, yep. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what we're nodding about. Like, what does it mean to you? I want to say to them, wait, what does this message mean in your world? I'm not sure how they're taking it. And it's funny, the reaction of men. That's what I find most amazing. Because some men and other people that are wearing our merch have told me, will go, or, you know, I had a guy go, misbehaving woman, huh?
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird... It's a total different reaction from the men and the women.
Well, think about the cruise ship. Remember I said to you the comments?
Yeah.
So I would say most of the comments were the old men who would look at it and then have a comment about it.
Right.
But it was so entertaining to me to see
Yeah.
this 70 or 80-year-old man who's commenting on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I love it.
I'm also imagining, because on the cruise ship, it becomes your own little ecosystem. You start to make stories up about everyone that you're seeing every day. And you would have been to so many people, oh, that girl is wearing the misbehaving one. Yeah, I've seen her. What is she? What is that about? You know, like that was how they would have identified you, which I love. Like, what do you think she's doing? Yeah. Yes. Anyways, that's been really fun. And for people that have our merch that have been telling me like I get a lot of texts of the reactions that they get is really awesome. Yeah. So it's like we're in a secret club. I'm not 100% what we all agree that means. But yeah, wonderful. And it's funny. Because I wear it all the time now, in the beginning of Evie in preschool, maybe it was her the beginning of her second week, the teacher said, okay, I have to talk to you and you to another teacher. I'm like, oh yeah. Because they sometimes they'll give you an update. And she's telling me how the boy started kicking one of the teachers when it was like, wrap this up, when they didn't want to wrap it up. And so then Evie started doing the kicking. So they were both kicking. So like, talk to them about kicking, us. And as she's telling me this, I'm wearing my misbehaving woman shirt. And I just see her eyes slowly go down and read my shirt and go back up and give me a look like, oh, I see.
She's going to be something. So yeah, I thought that was funny, and I just said nothing. I didn't say it. She was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah, we'll talk to her." So, anyways, I highly recommend it just for the stories and the interactions and the silent nods of approval.
I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'm not going to lie. I love it.
I know. It sounds obnoxious for us to love it so much, but we do. We do. So coming up, our OnlyFans, our delve into the world of OnlyFans, and our search history will never be the same. Our algorithms will never be the same. So coming up.
They can't see me like Houdini, move discreetly. I go.
I've had a morning ritual now for over 20 years that always begins with a matcha latte. I now drink mud water because the added mushrooms level up my day with natural energy, focus, and immunity support. To purchase, go to mudwater.com/wellness. It brings you to our Misbehaving Women's discount offer. Get $20 off a monthly subscription plus 15%, or go to the 15% off for your first time starter kit. mudwtr.com/wellness. You're going to hear me talk about school again because it really is comedy. Like, the class is comedy, and today's content, we are going to talk about OnlyFans. And I think I mentioned last time, like, I did do this course 20 years ago. So I thought the stuff that he's talking about, I already know it. So I thought this is a great time to do some research. And thank God there is internet in the school. So I got my windows popped up, and my windows are OnlyFans and porn. I'm wondering what the girl who sits beside me, my new BFF, who's like got to be about 19, maybe 20 years old at the most, and seems like the most like really, really shy, naive girl, and the sweetest girl ever. I'm wondering what she's thinking. And the people behind me, I'm wondering what they're thinking. Like, this girl has OnlyFans and porn. I thought she said she was an acupuncturist. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, so I have spent some time this week.
They might not sit next to you next week.
And I'm kind of hoping someone asks me at some point in time.
You almost have to just stand up and make an announcement in the class. Oh my God. I was doing research.
I'm not on OnlyFans.
My thing is, from doing the research, my algorithm is so out of whack. It's like it thinks I want to be an OnlyFans girl. My YouTube is all messed up. The videos, I keep getting ones on how to be a successful OnlyFans girl. Oh my, it's upsetting. And I'm sure that when I've done some of the research out in the world at restaurants and whatnot, and I'm sure the waitresses thought, does she want to be on OnlyFans? No, I don't put out energy looking like I want to be on it, right? But it's like, what? And it was all on my screen. I'm watching the little clips. So it was actually a very disturbing research. But there was one lighthearted, funny aspect to it. And I just can't wait for my algorithm to go back to normal.
Well, Becky had sent me a podcast, and she says, if we're going to do an episode on OnlyFans, she said, you have to listen to this podcast. And I said, great. So I'm sitting in class, and I'm thinking, couldn't be a better time to just pop in one earphone and I'm going to listen to the podcast. So I'm listening to it, and then I had literally a sheer moment of panic. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I hope that's in my ear. And I had to pull it out really quickly, and I'm looking and I'm like, okay. Because the teacher kept having the eye contact with me, and I'm thinking, oh, I really honestly panicked. Like, I was red hot because I was thinking, oh my God, this is out loud. And then I took it out, and I'm looking around, and I'm realizing, oh, I think I'm okay. And then I'm like, I'm not taking that chance. So I've had 2 separate incidences, all with OnlyFans, and
Wow. He was probably looking at you because he could see you had the ear thing in your ear, and he's like, are you kidding me right now? You're like, I'm a misbehaving woman.
I am. I know. I think next week I'm going to wear our merch that says it right across my
Misbehaving
chest.
mode.
Yes, because I
Oh
like
my
this teacher.
God.
I think in person he's a very nice guy, but he goes off topic a lot.
Yeah.
Like we're way out in space sometimes. So to me, I'm like, all right, let's get some work done. What can I find for our topic?
I think he's just filling those hours. He's gonna go from 2 to 4. He's like, what can I tell these people?
It's painful for him. I'm sure it's way more painful for me. But
you are getting stuff done during it, so hey.
I am getting stuff done, yeah.
So today, here we are, OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah, what a topic. I had to have a pre-meeting. I'm like, Kelli, there's so many different themes and angles, and this topic is huge.
And if I can say this, we are doing this topic because many months ago we had a talk, and I can't remember how we got onto the topic of OnlyFans, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, I kind of know what that is, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then as we got onto our conversation, obviously I clued in a little bit more than what I thought I had originally known about it. I definitely had heard about it, but I had never done a deep dive into it, didn't, know the ins and outs of it or the astronomical numbers on an OnlyFans platform. So this was a big eye-opener for me. And I think today we are hoping to also spark some conversations for other women to have. There's no shaming. We don't want to shame anyone. We just want to open up the conversation and put some question marks around things because we want to have people, maybe just have some food for thought. Let's
Talk about things that
Yeah.
aren't getting talked about around it.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people do know about OnlyFans and certain aspects of it, but it's so much more than I knew. The more and more research, it's kind of, some of it's horrifying, some of it's fascinating. The growth is amazing from a business point of view. It's interesting. There's so many aspects.
Yeah.
But it all does come back to, I think for us, how does it impact women? How is it impacting self-worth? Like all that sort of stuff is where our conversations kind of tie back to.
And how does it impact society as a whole?
Yes.
I think that's a really big question. And I think it's something that nobody really does talk about. How is this
I found a few people bringing that up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How is this moving us forward as women? And that's
Or pulling us back is what we might
that
find.
was my next thing is how is that doing that? And if it's not, then is it keeping us stagnant or are we going backwards?
And it has the guise, though, of that it is, well, we can get into it in a minute, empowering, but when I told some friends, oh, this is a topic we're doing soon, there was like and I kind of told them my feeling on it. They said, oh, you better be careful. A lot of people see that as empowering women.
Yeah.
And so interesting. I think this will spark a lot of people that want to comment on this episode. And just kind of what Kelli touched on, I think, please know that for both of us and the way we live our lives, this is such a judgment-free zone. We never come from a place of judging, especially women, doing what they need to do in life. It's just, I feel like it's only offering other things to consider, other viewpoints to consider, and just have a think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe impacts that you did or didn't realize were happening to you or society or women.
Yeah. And if we can't have these conversations, and I think we did talk about earlier about triggers. And so if this is triggering you in some way, then I don't know, maybe ask yourself, what is it about what we're saying that is, making you feel this way? And what we're trying to do is just bring some things to the forefront, have these conversations that maybe other women are having and want to also chime in on. Or maybe you've never thought about it this way. And so maybe we can give you a new perspective. Or I like to say, maybe we will plant some seeds. And maybe as you walk through life, those seeds will get watered and start to grow. And maybe you'll have a different opinion. Or maybe you'll be able to see where we're coming from and what we're talking about.
Yeah, not even that we want to change your opinion, just to see the other viewpoint.
No, but that's part of the life. It's like, no, I'm not here to make people change their opinions. Yeah. Absolutely not. But one way that I approach life is that I want to hear what other people's opinions are about things, because maybe they did see something that I didn't see. Or maybe they'll say something in a way that somebody's told me 30 times and I couldn't hear it that way. And then they've rephrased it in a way that was like, oh, okay. Now I see what they're talking about. Okay. Yeah. Because we are here to grow, to learn, to expand. And that's all we're offering you is opportunity to maybe take some of the topics that we're talking about and maybe see a fresh new perspective.
And let us know. Comment on the post on our social if there is something that you think that we missed, or you know, something that maybe trigger. I do think people will want to comment on this, so we'll probably have to read some comments in one of our live chats. So OnlyFans, just for people that maybe don't know about it and what is it, it's actually based, I didn't know, I was interested, it's based in London. In England. I do know, like, you know, a lot of tech companies are there. They have a great corporate tax rate, and that's why. But the guy that started the company is from England, and he's British, and so that's probably also why. Just so people understand how big it is, there is over 1.2 billion visits a month to OnlyFans. And this is from solid sources. That varies. It goes up and down. You can actually see the numbers on, I was looking at SEMrush, which is a trusted platform for analytics. It's primarily used by sex workers that post porn related content. I know that there's a lot of marketing and effort put into saying it's all these other things, but primarily the whatever 80, 90% of it, that is what it is used for. And the way that the girls mostly, although there are some men contributors, they make money through monthly subscriptions. So people will subscribe to see someone's content. And that can be like $5.99 a month or $25 a month or more. And they make money from tips. And the tips are how they kind of get bigger payouts. Like if you want to chat to them, you have to keep tipping them to keep chatting to them. And then they do pay-per-view stuff. That's another way they make money. And then a little bit of a darker side is there's a referral program that some of these bigger companies that are monetizing OnlyFans have. So girls that refer other girls are getting paid out to kind of recruit girls to join the platform.
Just the first thing that popped into my head was Jeffrey Epstein and
Right.
That's what she did, right? She recruited other girls.
Yeah. It's so dark thinking but that's the problem. Girls will trust other girls.
Absolutely.
And so OnlyFans takes 20% of whatever a contributor is making. That's how they're making their money. And then the girls, I'm saying girls mostly, there are guys on there, make, you know, they have 80%, and they have tax forms they have to fill out. So they have to pay out tax on what they're making. And it's all tracked. The most people that use it, I think this could be surprising of people might not realize, and this is from research that was done on sexual attitudes and characteristics of OnlyFans users. A typical OnlyFans user is white, about 70% white, married, 90% are married men, 63% are men, and 60% are heterosexual men. So it's mostly white, married, straight guys that are on there. OnlyFans, the company, has 1,000 employees in London. This is a big operation. 80% of those people are just moderating the content and giving like support, I think, to the contributors mostly. In 2021, it made $932 million. It's gone through a few CEOs, and the founder sold all of his by now. But Kelli Blair, an Irish lady that lives in London, is the current CEO. It's owned by Phoenix International. And it's funny, if you go to the Phoenix website, it just looks like a classic web development tech company, like super vanilla. You would never in a million years get any vibe that they run OnlyFans, what I think is quite funny. You know, clearly it's just sort of like a tax thing going, like, you know, like this is our company, but we're actually OnlyFans. And just someone who came from a web dev background, I found that really funny looking at this. I was like, oh. So Tim Stokely, as I said, he's British, and he ran a softcore porn website called Glam Girls. And then he founded Customs for You, a website where customers could request custom videos from pornographic models. Because I guess guys that watch porn have their favorite porn model. So it was a way that they could get in touch with them. And then in November 2016, he founded OnlyFans kind of based on that, where the performers could monetize their content and attractions. A couple years later, the guy who ran My Free Cams bought 75% of it. So again, all these guys have backgrounds in porn.
Yes.
Just to be very clear of what this company is. And yeah, there's it's hundreds of millions of users, and there's 2 million creators on there, 3 billion revenue collectively. Just, I want to get people understand the size of the company itself, the size, the amount of users, the amount of like people making content is 2 million. And ironically, there's not enough of them to keep up with the demand from the hundreds of millions of people that are going on there every day. There's not enough with the 2 million. And I think a big thing for someone who doesn't know is they're very known for normalizing and glamorizing the commercial sex industry, which has been a huge win for them in attracting young girls. That it's sort of marketed as, you're famous, it's glamorous, you can make so much money. It's just a side hustle. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And they have a age limit of 18, correct?
Yeah.
And yet we had a conversation earlier that, interesting enough, that, they
There's
actually
workarounds,
don't have.
It's, you show a license, you take a picture of a license or something,
Yeah.
which...
That they don't have women that are just 18 and over. They're actually minors.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're being investigated for that. And the New York Times did a really interesting piece. If you're very interested to read, it called on e-pimping, which is kind of like the new way of pimping, is e-pimping. And they're definitely using OnlyFans to do that.
But it is glamorizing the sex industry.
Totally.
And there are these young girls who are buying into this, and they're not allowing themselves to actually see what's happening. And I've had this conversation with so many women. Like, I can't even tell you how many women I've had talks with about, how they see what's happening to women. And a lot of things are we going backwards is the question, like what's happening. And I had some quotes from some of the women, because I asked them, do you mind if I use the quotes things that they said to me, and I said, can I use that as quotes for this podcast? And they said yes. One of them is, OnlyFans is the epitome of everything wrong with modern day feminism. Yeah. I don't know. I agree. Another is, OnlyFans objectifies, degrades, and keeps women still under the thumb of men. And I was like, yes, it does.
Which will explain why we're saying that, because that will activate a lot of people saying that,
Yeah. And then this one, I had to tell her to slow down. Because I was like, I want to get all of this.
She got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, she had a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
She said, don't get me started on today's version of feminism. So I was like, when she started that, I was like, wait, can I use this? Because I was like, let's see what comes out. So porn, or she said, don't get me started on today's version of feminism, porn, and OnlyFans. I feel sick when talking about how women today have a false sense of power, freedom, and independence. Men paying you for any type of sexual act or behavior is not putting women in a position of power. I don't know who is telling all these young girls that this is the way to claim their power, but somebody needs to set the record straight. Someone needs to get their records straight, and we need to start educating young girls about what real power looks like, what a strong woman looks like, what an independent woman looks like. All I can tell you is that it can never be achieved by taking your clothes off for a man for money.
I think that's the little tiny subtle twist that gets confused, because a lot of people argue this brings people out of poverty, and there's so many sad stories of ways they've helped their family or whatnot. So there's financial freedom, and financially, you might say, I'm financially empowered. That's different than inherent self-worth empowerment as a human. And I think that's the line that gets confused or blurred, and they're separate. You can and by the way, for most, they don't get rich off it, and then you still have the repercussions.
Well, I think the thing is, when we talk about money empowerment, what these young girls don't understand is there's a timestamp on that. And that what you're doing now is only working because you are underage or very young. But you're going to get to a point where unless you can afford all the plastic surgery and all the things to continue to try and keep you as young as possible, or young looking as possible, you are going to stamp out and you're not going to be able to continue to make this money. And so
that was the even more heartbreaking thing. A lot of girls I saw talking about how guys get bored with them. So you might make a lot of subscribers at first, if you do, and they quickly stop subscribing to you because they've seen you, they're done with you, they're on to the next.
Yeah.
So at first you might get a little blip and then it goes away, and then you have to start thinking. I saw girls saying they go in thinking, okay, I'm only going to do this. And you always end up getting pushed to do more than you first set that boundary.
Absolutely.
And as you lose subscribers and you're making requests for these tips, oh, do this video for me, do this thing for me. And so you start doing that to get the money back up, or to get that money you need to make from it, and slowly chipping away at your boundaries you had set.
So I think that's what this woman was trying to talk about, real financial empowerment, what that actually means. And because this is very limited. And again, the conversation that we had outside of, like, I was trying to get this all down, but one of the conversations we had too is that when you are having any type of let's say a relationship with a man, and money is always the thing that's between you, you've lost your power, because they hold all the power, because they hold the money. And so again, I don't know, where is that empowerment coming from? Where do you see that empowerment coming from? Because this is not sustainable long term. And unless you're the person that can invest really, really well, which I'm going to say, I don't know, I don't have any stats, but I'm going to...
It's still kind of a paycheck to paycheck thing,
Yeah,
I think.
was going to say,
not,
nobody is actually coming out and, there's going to be the odd people that are going to do it and figure it out and make a lot of money and buy their house or do whatever they need to do. But again, it's still not long-term sustainable.
And I think that's another way that this has been so brilliantly marketed, and there's a PR machine behind this, and make no mistake that there is. Like with the celebs, and I'm putting that in quotes because I don't know how many, some of them are celebs, and then money that they make is put out. So it gives all these girls the idea, I can make this much money on there. But this is a 0.1% of people that are contributing on there.
Absolutely. And the girls that are, let's say, more celebrity type, men are going to them because they've seen them in a movie.
Yeah.
They've seen them in something where they fantasize about themselves.
Yeah.
So with this quote unquote famous person. So to them, it's almost, I don't know if this is right to say, but it's almost like they're dating this famous person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're having sex with this famous person.
Yeah.
And that's very different for all these other young girls.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to, so this, the people that are on it that get pushed out a lot as I would almost say a carrot to young girls. Cardi B's on there. She made $9 million. It says she makes $9 million a month. I don't think she's making that every month. I think that there was a month she made $9 million. I don't know, but from all the different, it was hard to there's so many sites out there.
She's still doing that?
That's the thing. I'm not sure she
cleaned
did it
up her
for,
life.
yeah. So these get pulled out as headlines, but it might have been 1 month. And then the girl who was known for being the most successful on there of all time, Bella Thorne, she actually got pushback because when she went on there, she said, something to the effect of you're going to see a lot or you're going to see it all. She got however many, $1 million in 24 hours, and she made 11 million. Where is it? Yeah, 11 million in a month. She was the top earner, $1 million in 24 hours. And then she didn't. And so they got all these people complaining to OnlyFans hey, she said she was going to show it all. So they had to give a lot of reimbursements, and they actually had to change the rules around what contributors are allowed to promise, which screwed over a lot of the actual contributors that were doing this for a living, and they were kind of annoyed with her because it made it harder for them. And then Black China went on there. She went to number one. She made $20 million in a month. She charges $20 for a subscription. Iggy Azalea again. So these are famous, either ex-strippers that went into rap or were on reality TV, which is Cardi B. And then Iggy Azalea, a famous rapper, she went on $9.2 million in a month. Porn stars, Mia Khalifa, I didn't know her, but she's in the top 10, $6 million a month, and she does adult content. That is what she's putting out, make no mistake. And then the top record was broken by a girl called, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Bad Bobby, who made $1 million in 6 hours. And she's the girl that's famous. She was on Dr. Phil when she was a teen with her mom. And she said to Dr. Phil, "Cash me outside. How about that?" And that went super viral, and it went on merch. And like, she was like this teen that was unruly and the mom couldn't manage her. And that, yeah, so then there was all this merch around that. She went virally famous for that. I think her life took a turn there. She went into rehab facilities in and out, and then she went on OnlyFans and joined this. And so I think she's had a mental health journey. So this is a small handful. Oh, yeah, like Kate Moss's sister, her half sister, Ladia Moss, makes 30,000 pounds a month. This is a very small group of women that are making this money, but these headlines are everywhere, and so this is what's pushed to these young girls.
So assuming Cardi B, Kate Moss's sister, all these people have connection to fame well before they got on there.
Exactly.
And so
even the porn stars that are making this, they're famous porn stars. That's a whole industry. There's like, what do they call those weekends you can go to and meet the porn stars? They're the famous ones out of all the girls doing porn that are making that more money on there.
Yeah. I find it very sad because I feel like it's not what the reality of your situation is ever going to be. And there's a cost of you having to go and do this work when you are doing it from a place of lack, not from a place of being filled up.
Yes.
Because, and I'm going to say it because I know people are going to hate this, but when you are filled up, your self-worth is, I'm going to use your line, unshakable. Mm-hmm. This is never going to be the line of work that you're ever going to choose for yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
And I know that people are going to want to push back on that. I think we're going to have a lot of women who are like, yes. But I think there's going to be some women that, that's going to be controversial for them.
There's women that see this as modern day feminism and empowering women to like take it back, and they make the money and it's on their terms.
It's not on their terms.
Yeah. I almost wish we had
an illusion.
Yeah, I wish we actually had someone that thought that way. I have friends that think that way. We're aligned in our thinking on it, so maybe I guess just please like comment on our Instagram of, I'm happy to have this debate again, or maybe have someone on in a future episode that feels strongly about this. I saw interesting, and I actually wanted to say at the beginning, I found this very hard to do this research. I actually had to go have a cry. I had to go have a minute alone. Some of it is really dark, disturbing stuff which I'm not even going to bring all that up. Because I don't want to put that out in the world any more than it is. But there is this aftermath of being a contributor. And there's this incredible woman. She runs this site called IamAtreasure.com. And she was a stripper and I think did porn. Her name is Harmony Dust. That's what she goes under. That wasn't her stripper name, so I don't know where that lies. But anyways, Harmony. And it's incredible the work she's doing in her website. I went and had a look. She did this YouTube video kind of really trying to compel young girls that are getting targeted to do this with all the glamorization, PR machine out there, to tell them the truth of it. And she sort of had this list of things to realize. I'm going to put a link in our show notes to this video. So many girls on there commenting, I was thinking about doing OnlyFans, and after I watched this, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, really making an impact. But she was like, there's leaked recording and piracy. You can screen record. So even though it's like you can't record with the app, you can screen record any screen. Yeah. Everyone has that technology. And then you don't know what's going to be done. Someone tells you to do a video of this for a tip, and then that gets taken and it's out there forever and you have no control over it.
Well, this is out there forever regardless.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that I think is also the veil is up, because people aren't seeing that once you put this out there, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And I have had this conversation many times with young girls where I've said, obviously this is your life. You can choose whatever path it is that you want, but know that no matter what happens, and I'm not necessarily just referring to OnlyFans or to porn, it's like it's going to parties, it's all of these things that once it's out there, you think, oh, it's not a big deal, I can take it down, or it's on Snapchat, it goes away. This never goes away.
It doesn't ever go away. And if you think that employers don't hire, these big companies don't hire people to be able to do their due diligence, I'm telling you that someone will find this, that it will come out again. And there's the argument always that, well, you know, I never want to work for a big company. Okay, well, you don't know that because you don't know what you don't know, because you're coming from a place of being young and not knowing what the life has planned for you and what opportunities down the road may come to you. So I understand why you think that now, but do not record yourself drunk ever. Stop doing that. Stop putting out stuff that can come back to you. And it's all these things. It's like innocent things that you and I grew up in a time when we did stupid things, but nobody was recording us. And yeah, maybe somebody saw the stupid thing, but it's nowhere near like what's happening now.
I'm eternally grateful there wasn't social media when I was growing up, because I would have done a lot of stupid stuff on there that I would regret now.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the food for thought is that your actions are not about the moment. We're talking your entire lifetime.
Yeah. That's actually one of the things she said as well.
Yeah.
She said, you'll always be asked to do more. You start by thinking you know your boundary, and you don't. You are always, every day you're pushed by someone with a private request for a certain amount of money to do this. There is a cost to becoming a sexual object. You are a product, and you are treated less than human. And this is from someone that did it. Sexual harassment is a job requirement when you're in that industry. It's just part of it. You can't say, how dare you say that to me? You know, that you're getting paid for that.
Yeah.
It really limits future career options. She brought up what you're saying.
Yeah.
With background checks, or a coworker saw you, or people just talk. And then she said, this is what's so heartbreaking. I think this is the part that really struck a chord with girls. She said, it will change you. It just will.
Absolutely.
One night working in the strip club changed her first night. And I know you could say, well, being a stripper is different than OnlyFans in your bedroom alone. But she said, and then every night after, it impacts your ability to have healthy relationships, true intimacy. It keeps changing you every day that you do it.
It's 100% across the board. All the things that I read was how many girls said how it changed them, and that
Even doing it for 2 months.
yeah, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And then on the podcast that we listened to, which was
Flightless Bird with David Ferrier.
With the Flightless Bird, it was really interesting. The one girl who wasn't even an OnlyFans girl.
Contributor.
She was actually a chatter.
Yeah.
And that changed her. And she couldn't have relationships.
So just so people know, because some of the girls are more famous and they can't keep up with the demands, like I said, there's 500 million people go on it every month, and there's 2 million contributors. And for the more popular ones, every minute they're getting requests to chat from guys.
Yes.
So they have chat teams that they hire to chat as though it's them.
Yes.
So that girl was doing that for another girl, chatting like it was her.
many girls, for a few
many
girls. Yeah, she had a couple girls going on and doing that.
Yeah, and she said it just got, and that's actually, a lot of girls I saw saying the same thing that she said. It gets in your head. You go in a dark place. There's no way to have a healthy relationship with a guy because you've seen such a dark side of the requests. Yeah. I pulled some comments from this girl's YouTube where someone said she's right, in the industry since 2009, starting as a webcam model. I joined OnlyFans in 2017. Over time, it will wear down your self-worth, I promise you. And then another woman wrote, it fortifies the notion that serving men's sexual fantasies is good for women, but in reality, it reinforces a perception of women as inferior and submissive. There's a direct link between objectification of women and acts of aggression and violence against them. OnlyFans affects all women and future generations of women.
Yeah. Somebody I had a conversation with yesterday brought up something. She brought up sugar daddy. I'd never heard of it. I feel like I'm so naive and that I don't know a lot of stuff about this. So she brought up sugar daddy, which I had to, she's like, oh, go Google it. And she's like, you can't talk about this without talking about sugar daddy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So went into sugar daddy. And another thing that she had a comment on was that there is a lot of single females right now in the world, especially where we live, which is Vancouver. There's a ton of girls. And she said, Of course there is, because there's so many men out there that are using OnlyFans, sugar daddy, and she says they don't need to have a relationship because like a real relationship with somebody.
90% of the guys are married on OnlyFans.
Yeah. So what they're doing is going and being able to have these, it's, what do they call it? When you're...
The parasocial?
No, when you're first, when you're before love, it's like you're... This is a very menopause moment. When you're in lust with someone. Do you know what I mean?
Those first 3 months, that dopamine,
Yeah, you've got the dopamine hits and everything is amazing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these young girls are now saying, well, they want a relationship. Like, you're either going to take them out of this situation that they've got themselves into, that you're going to marry them. Probably most of these girls don't know that these guys are married. But then the next thing is, so they don't have to have any commitment. Then they just drop you and they're off to the next one. And she said that girls are having a hard time finding actual real guys to date because they don't have to have a commitment. They don't have to give anything. So they do the OnlyFans, they do the sugar daddy, they have these really brief little encounters with these women, drop them off to the next one. And she says, yeah, because then they don't have to actually have a quote unquote real relationship, like an emotional connection.
I think there's a specific generation that isn't wanting to commit.
Yeah.
Like millennials and the one after millennials, I can't remember what they're called. That whole 20-year gap, they're the ones that they don't see the need. They grew up with online dating or the apps. Yeah. Just to be clear, sugar daddies is a niche thing. You have to be wealthy. You have to prove you're well. I know guys that use sugar daddies and have girlfriends from it.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I don't think that's the big thing, but I think the numbers don't lie of how many people around the world are using OnlyFans, married men that are chatting and paying to chat all day long. That's the part I found fascinating. They're spending a lot of money every day.
I was horrified by sugar daddy. I'm not going to lie. I went on the site and I'm like...
That could be its own separate episode. That's a whole other...
That's because they call the girls on there are sugar babies.
Sugar babies, yeah.
Sugar babies.
It's a whole kink, yeah.
How can that... the average age of a sugar daddy is 52. The average age of a sugar baby is 23.
I know a guy that he went somewhere I want to be super elusive, but I knew him extremely well. And he went somewhere in the States and interviewed 3 girls. He'd narrowed it down to from the sugar babies side or sugar daddy, and picked one and brought her back to where he lives. And that's a whole other wild journey. But yeah, and they would go to sex parties and the big orgies that happen in Europe and all over. And it's a whole life. And yeah, she just... it's so awful to see her trying to make the best of it, but it's not. You are like an employee, and people in our lives would call her his employee, because that really is what's going. It's a transactional deal.
Absolutely.
But then that person is putting love on it, getting mad at her, saying you're with me for my money. Well, you met me on Sugar Daddy. Hello, to be upset with the person after. And there's sugar baby parties I know they would go to, and the girls are kind of dressed up in baby doll dresses.
Oh, God.
It's a whole thing, and him and his guys would go to that, and it's sort of openly sex. I think that's its own niche world. You do have to have a certain amount of money to be a guy on there, and then for those girls, they do want to they're expecting a certain lifestyle is given to them if they are going to be with you.
Well, I'm assuming all these guys have money, because whether you're on OnlyFans or your sugar daddy, you're paying constantly to be able to have these girls' attention.
Yes.
To be able to be the person that they spend more time with.
Yeah.
So you've got to shell out some bucks to do that.
Yeah. It's that was actually one interesting theme that I saw that kept coming up, these parasocial relationships, which happen through people on reality TV, people you listen to on podcasts. It doesn't have to be sexual, but you think you have a relationship with them, even if they're a friend, because you know so much about their life. People might have parasocial relationships with us after us talking about our lives every week. And that's a fine thing if people come up to you and they're like, oh, Kelli, and they start telling you about Finn or their, you know what I mean? And that can be lovely.
Yeah.
And we actually hope people feel like we're their friend and you're just listening to 2 friends chatting. That's kind of our goal. But then the dark side of that is on OnlyFans, where you think you're in a relationship with this girl that you are paying every however long she keeps saying, tip me if you want this conversation. And they're spending hours all day. Some of the girls would complain saying, I had to get off I couldn't chat to him that many hours. I needed a break, but he kept saying he won't pay me if I don't stay on, keep chatting to him. And then some of the girls seemed to be a bit smarter with it and said, okay, you got to give me a tip now if you want me to keep going. Like they were a little more demanding. It seemed to go both ways. So knowing that 90% of these guys are married, I am just fascinated with what account are they paying for this from that their wife doesn't know about. And there's this like fidelity cheat code for married men that they're like, I'm not cheating.
Yeah.
And
that was a big question with with a flightless bird.
Yeah.
It was a really big conversation for them to be able to come back and say, is this cheating?
Yeah.
What constitutes cheating?
They're just chatting.
Yeah. Is chatting cheating or is the one-on-ones cheating? So all good questions. And I'm sure every woman has a different...
Oh, like just subscribing to see content?
Yeah, just subscribing, because the question was, what's the difference between doing OnlyFans and, some guy pulling up some porn? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And masturbating to porn. So...
Which most people on earth do. Like if you look at I know this because I worked in web development for so many years, and people would always say like, okay, we want to be this number site. And you'd have to pull up the top sites in the world. And for many years, the top 10 of websites used on earth were like 4 of them are always porn sites. And I know Pornhub is still, it's always in the top 10. Like it goes up and down from like number 4 to number 7 or whatever. So most, like that's out of the world. A lot of people are on there. So if women are kind of silently accepting that or doing it with their partner or into it, then you take it to, okay, they're fine with that. Well, now he's subscribing and it's the same. Oh, I'm watching this porn star that is a favorite of mine and I'm seeing her content. Oh, but now I'm writing her saying, make me this video and I'll tip you this much. Oh, now I'm chatting with her and we have a conversation. So probably every woman has a different place where they're willing to say that's cheating or not cheating.
Yeah. And what they're comfortable with and what they're comfortable with to say what they're comfortable with. Do you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of women might be thinking this is cheating, but afraid to say that. Or being able to have that conversation to be like, okay, I'm okay with you watching porn. I'm not okay with you having a one-on-one with this girl. Like, no, now you're starting. And I think the big question for me would be more the emotional part. Do you know what I mean? Are you building an emotional connection with this person?
He is. He's in a parasocial relationship, but he doesn't know who he's actually chatting to. That's the irony.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like guy friends of mine said, we don't understand why guys are going on there because like there's so much porn is free. Yeah. Like they can't fathom guys are paying to be like for girls on OnlyFans because they're like, why would you pay? Yeah, I don't know. It's this whole new world. I think it was actually during the pandemic is when OnlyFans soared. It was profitable, but it wasn't like the giant it's become. But the pandemic made it. I think it had a growth of 500% or something like that in the first year of the pandemic.
Okay, so my question is going to be this. During lockdown, this is soaring, where are these guys going to be able to have some privacy to be on OnlyFans when everyone's locked down in their little homes? Where are you going?
Well, I think
are you hiding in the bathroom, in the closet?
Yeah. Garage. Yeah. A lot of wives did want to murder their husbands during lockdown. Yeah. I don't think any couple is meant to be around each other 24/7. So she was probably like, fine, go outside, go in the front yard, go in your shed. You know what I mean? I don't care what you're doing out there. Leave me alone for an hour. So that might have been easy for them to get alone time.
Oh, goodness.
It is. Yeah, that is wild. It soared during the pandemic, though, because everyone was home together with their families. Yeah. Oh, man. The other fascinating thing, like, that we were kind of laughing about, I know this is, like, mostly dark, but one thing that we're interested in that came out of the flightless bird was how many men are writing the girls saying, rate my dick. Like, every day, all day long, guys are sending a dick pic, and that's what they're getting, the private tip. Here's a picture of my dick. Rate it.
Well, we had no idea. When it came up, I'm like texting you and I'm like, and you're like, did you get to the part where they rate the dick? And I'm like, I wonder if my class heard that. Because the other thing that Bucky said to me, which was really funny, she's like, when you took it out, and she's like, was it on? And I said, no, thank goodness. And she's like, well, just so you know, Paul told me that he could hear what I was listening to because it was so loud in my ears. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she says, no, you can hear it on the outside, even if you've got them in your ears.
Yeah, depending how loud you have it.
How loud you have it. And I was thinking, I have no idea.
Maybe the people were actually sitting closer to you by the time it was done because they were like wanting to hear.
Now they want to read what's coming up on my screen.
Yeah.
What's this girl listening to? Oh, look, she's pulling out the earphones again.
That's why the teacher was distracted.
Yes.
He's like, what was the dick rated?
So,
Yeah,
who
fascinating.
knew that this was such an obsession? It's not even like it's like seems like to me an obsession based on the. Sorry, we're both looking. There's a worker outside today, and we had to say, "Can you just be quiet for 2 hours?"
the
while we
handyman.
chit-chat, while we get things going. Anyways,
Yeah, and she said it wasn't like that was the biggest part of her job. It's not like this was a one thing. It was nonstop
Yes.
dick pics and rate my dick, like nonstop all day, every day.
and not everyone wanted a high score. Some people wanted to be shamed.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start.
There's all
with
kinds
that.
of, yeah. I mean, we'd need a psychologist to come in and talk about that. What's going on? It's just like, wow. All guys are still, no matter how old you get, you're still wondering, how do I compare? I guess it's a real, some sort of primal connection or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there.
I don't either. I think, though, somewhere in there will be another podcast. Someone needs to help us understand this.
Yeah. And I think we're like, there's a lot of stuff out there saying it's lonely single men, and that's who all this chatting for hours is. But the statistics is like, it's not lonely single men. Lonely single men are probably on the dating apps. Yeah. It's married men that.
So what are they doing? Telling their wives, oh, I'm on the golf course? Or what are they telling their wives? Like,
Or they could be sitting there, but it just looks like you're on social. You know, it's just a chat thing is like appearing.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. Who knows? I'm sure there's a million different ways they've thought of.
Yeah. Well, obviously they have thought about this, and they've thought about this very well. I'm actually even concerned. You guys tell each other how to get away with this. Is this a conversation between
I'm
bros?
sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is what you need to do. And
I
she'll
know
never
guys, they'll discuss their favorite porn stars. And in doing that, you would say, well, so-and-so's on OnlyFans and charges this much, or I paid her this much to get this private video or thing. Yeah. So this whole loneliness aspect, I'm not buying the lonely single men, like poor men, these lonely men. Yeah. I mean, you can be lonely and be married. Don't get me wrong, or lonely and living with someone. You can be lonely in a relationship. But it's not this narrative that's out there. Oh, we're servicing lonely single guys. Like, I'm not buying it. The stats don't lie. And
do not send us your decks, men. We are not rating them. Sorry, it's not going to happen. Just thought I'd throw that out there in case somebody it popped into their brain.
That's so
I wonder
funny.
if I sent it in, what would happen? Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
That is so funny. I'm just thinking, like, a lot of my gay besties, they have, like, tried to rate guys I'm dating their dick. Like, it is just a male mind. It's a little obsession, I guess, they have when they're little, and it never goes away. So around the world, this was another interesting thing that came up. So by country, the U.S. had 172 million people on it. Mexico had 19.77 million. The UK, 17.56 million. Brazil is the number 4, 13.7, tied with Canada, 13.7. So in the States, it's really, really popular in the States. And me and Kelli have tried to figure out the math around this. I don't know if that's percent population-wise, why they're higher, because obviously they have a much bigger population than all of us. Probably like the UK, 60 million. Canada is, 35 million. So you put that together, I think it still looks like our numbers are lower than theirs.
Well, I think we put together Australia, Canada, and the UK, and still, I think it came to
Percent-wise, they're still
way lower.
over-indexing.
Yeah.
And so we wondered if it was maybe the fame aspect, like that's really being pushed to these girls, that you'll be famous and you'll get rich, and that's our society now. I don't know.
Well,
Pornhub
there's
still
such
rules,
obsession with being famous with this younger generation, like a complete obsession of what they feel is success in life.
Yes. And that's where OnlyFans has done an incredible job at marketing
Oh,
themselves
they're
to these girls.
brilliant at marketing. If they weren't, they wouldn't be this big.
Yeah. You touched on, I do want to have a little more conversation on, obviously the reason this really matters to me is I read so much stuff about young girls being like pulled into this through that. And obviously that's my work with Worthfulness, is the next generation of girls, and them think, it being sold to them as like, you're a feminist and you're empowered. And we kind of touched on there's financial freedom, or even can you say financial empowerment? I don't know. What is empowerment? And I think that's the thing, like, what's the definition of empowerment? And if it's like make someone more stronger, confident in controlling their life, claiming their rights, where people that didn't have rights now have rights, you're empowered, like throughout history, right? And that can be confused, I think, with financial liberation or freedom versus that sort of self-worth knowledge piece of empowerment that you're inherently worthy. Yeah, I think it tricks them into thinking that they are in control, even though they're not. And this is something when we started talking about this, told me, and I thought, oh, that's a really great point that I think to bring up. It's making girls think, oh, I'm empowered, I'm in control. It's not men controlling me anymore, but because there's money exchange, it's not that. Like whichever way you slice it, you are still, unfortunately, it's a business transaction. And they still have the power if they're giving you the money.
It's huge business to understand that it's huge business. And I think we had this conversation too about, women saying that, this is something that they want to do, that they're making these choices. And I think we used the analogy of back in the day, like there wasn't anything online that didn't exist. So my question would be is how many of these girls still for money, still say take away all of the restraints that used to happen with quote unquote pimps, but would all these girls be standing on street corners?
Yeah.
Would they choose to go and do that? And not necessarily saying these women had to just sleep with these men, but would they do all of these things with men?
What percent of these 2 million girls would have been the ones that would have been, like hooking on the street, or then that moved to online and being an escort that you met in a place. Yeah. And I don't know what that percent is, but it sure the hell isn't 2 million.
Yeah, absolutely not. No.
Of these underage girls, or 17, 18, whatever it is, however young, and the stats, they appear to be younger.
And, prostitution has been around since forever. It's been a huge thing that, but to understand that women did that to survive. They did it because they needed to survive. It was the only way. They didn't have rights, and they were trying to find ways just to be able to stay alive and feed themselves. And that's what drove them into this. Yeah. And I think that this day and age, the amount of opportunities that young girls have and the amount of ways that you're able to make money at this day and age without having to sell your body, or I think more importantly, your soul, they're endless out there. And there are ways to do this. If you're looking for something else and you don't know, and maybe you do want to make a change, they're out there. And sometimes, you just have to, I don't know, you've got to take a chance on yourself, and you got to believe that you have the power to be able to make change.
Yeah. And maybe, what I got from a lot of these girls is they aren't making the money you think.
No,
they're making enough to cover their bills. So there is a price. There is a emotional price, mental health price that you also have to factor in. If it's just about paying your bills, that's when there are jobs to. Now I know you could get into the whole, I think this is where we're going to upset people. The middle class is being wiped out, and so many people lost jobs and can't make the money they were making, or to feed their family, or their parents are on disability, and this is helping them support their parents. I saw lots of stuff around that. I got lost down some Reddit holes, I'm not going to lie, which, you can't trust Reddit, but I get that point. And I wouldn't want to, I think we could be seen as privileged white women saying we'll just do something else, do something different. There are other opportunities, but just knowing that most of the girls I saw, other than that 0.1% are just covering their bills, do something else then. If it is just, anything to just cover your bills that isn't that, because you're at least not trading your mental health.
Well, and I think we touched on this earlier in this podcast, was that at some point in time, you're going to be forced to do something else. You're not going to have a choice because you're going to age out of this.
Yeah.
So you either do it when you're younger and you have more opportunities available because you are younger, and people are going to be willing to hire you. Where as you get older and this gets harder and you're compromising the boundaries that you've made for yourself, and now having to compromise that to keep things going, and then eventually this fizzles out for you. Now you're older and employers are going to wonder, what have you been doing? You know what I mean?
And most people, unfortunately, are very judgmental. Like most people don't have that open sort of, I guess, spiritual aspect, like of not judging other people. You don't know what they've been through or what, all that stuff. So you're going to be judged, and women can often judge more harshly girls that did this stuff.
Well, I have a family member that we were having this conversation, and one of the things we talked about is that there's also this narrative that goes around. Sometimes you'll read about it. I definitely came up with it a couple times. It's like, oh no, I'm putting myself through med school. And it's like, just to be really clear, if that ever got out that this is how you have spent your time, there is nobody that is going to hire you. There's no medical board that will have you be on it if this is how your past was. Yeah. And if you are maybe the person that slipped through that, then you really have to hope that it never comes out, because that is not going to be acceptable for certain organizations. And I read, like, somebody was talking about being a doctor, and somebody was talking about being a lawyer, and these high prestigious things, and that I'm doing this so that I can go to school and put myself through. I think we covered it before, which is this is out there forever. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not you think that you take this down and it's gone, it's not. And even if, let's just say you are the lucky person that you take this down, nobody finds out. All you need is one day for one of those men to walk into your clinic.
Mm-hmm. Of those 500 million men, who are they? We know that they're married. These are like fathers, husbands, just, the average Joe out there living his life.
Yeah. I think you would always be looking over your shoulder.
Or if someone looks at you a certain way, you're like, oh, do they know?
Yeah. And especially if you've decided now that you've changed your life, and you maybe decide that maybe you do want to get married, and maybe now you do have kids, and now you've got these men who know what you've done, and maybe you haven't shared what that past was. And nobody would want that to come out in a horrible way with your children or to ruin a marriage, because maybe you have, found a way to be able to find a different type of happiness. So, and we're not saying not to do it. We're saying these are the things to consider. These are things that I don't think a lot of women consider when they get themselves into
just
it.
Go in eyes wide open. If you're thinking about it and you're unsure, make sure you check out all the different aspects of ways you could be impacted.
And I'm not going to lie, there's a huge part of me that just wants to say, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But I also know the reality of life, and that some girls are pushed into situations that aren't ideal, and they're going to do what they have to do to get by in the moment.
And it's that easy out. Like that's the sad thing, I think, for this generation too. There's so many more sort of accessible options like this for them to get pulled into. Yep. Where when I was growing up, it was like, oh, what if everything goes wrong and it gets really bad? Like, I guess plan G or plan Z is, well, I could be a stripper. Yeah. And that was kind of like the thing, right? But now it's like, oh no, you just go on it's a side hustle. You go on OnlyFans. Yeah. Do this or that and make money. No big deal. You're in your room. Yeah. And no talk of the way that these girls have been mentally and emotionally impacted. Yeah. And please, I do want to make it clear, as Kelli and I have said, we don't judge. And a big message that I have throughout my whole Worthfulness program is you are more than what you might consider the worst thing you ever did. Absolutely. Or the worst thing that ever happened to you, which could be connected to this. Maybe not, but I just want to remind any girl who maybe is on there or has done something around this. This is not you. This isn't you as a person. It's something you did.
It's a choice you've made.
Yeah.
And you can always change your choices. Always change your choices.
And your self-worth is always there, and you can always make that connection stronger and get that connection back up to feeling your self-worth. It never goes away. Just that connection might have dropped down based on thoughts you're having or things you think you did that affect it.
And your self-worth is your birthright.
Yes.
It's something that is your actual birthright.
Yeah.
It's also something that you have to work on. And there's ways to be able to do that.
That's why I have so many tools in my program. They're real tools because you got to keep at it. Otherwise, you might not realize, oh, that connection I'm feeling to my self-worth has dropped down. Oh, shoot. Or something really bad did happen to you. Or you did something that you think you don't deserve it anymore. And it's just, it is not true. It is simply not true. It's a universal truth. I promise you that. Yeah. You are worthy.
You are. Absolutely. I'm going to 100% agree with that. And I also want, young girls to know that we make choices all the time, and you can pivot at any point in time and know that every time you pivot, it takes you on a different path, and that there's not just one path in life. There's multiple different paths. So keep that door open, that you may be in a situation right now that's not ideal, but know that things change. Nothing is ever completely stagnant, that life is always changing. And when you're up, know that at some point in time, you're going to go down. And when you're down, know that it will go up, and that it's the ebb and flow of life, and things are constantly going to be changing.
And you might think now, like, oh, I know I want this for sure, but look how many people get tattoos removed. They were 100% certain they wanted that tattoo forever. And, tattoo removal is a big business. Yeah. So even on that small scale of people that were 100% certain, you evolve as a human, and who you are in your 20s or your teens, you just keep evolving and changing, and you cannot possibly know what you're going to evolve into.
Well, my question for you is, like, when you were 20, did you have any idea that you were going to become the woman that you are now?
No, not even close. No. And I would have so many things. I'd be horrified. I would have been on social media because I was really, I was that loud, wanting attention, a little bit too cocky, hiding insecurities that way. Girl, at doing whatever for a laugh at parties and, all that stuff that would have been recorded. And I would just, oh, gosh, thank you, universe, that there was not phones with the recordings. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I could never have dreamed to be the woman that I am now. And I'm very grateful for all of the things that have happened through my life. And I'm grateful for all the lessons, because there has been no shortage of them. And I'm grateful because it's allowed me to continue to look at myself, continue to evolve, continue to challenge myself. And there is absolutely no way that I could be this woman. But I'm also going to say this. For me personally, and so I'll only speak for myself, and I believe that you'll agree with this, is that the reason why we love doing this is because we want to have these hard conversations. We also want to empower other women and to continue to know that there's going to be somebody in your life. Maybe you aren't on OnlyFans, but maybe you know someone who is. And it's not about judging them. It's about supporting them. Absolutely. And about being able to help them in any way that they ask for. So it's not going and saying to someone, listen to a podcast and you shouldn't be on because of this stat and that stat and this and that. You can't change people. People can only change themselves. You cannot change anyone. Mm-hmm. But maybe this will make you more compassionate because maybe you'll see why they've made the decisions for themselves, but know that they have the opportunity to be able to change, and maybe you befriending them in a different way to be able to support them and maybe to open up these conversations, but not in a way that you're judging somebody, but to be able to ask, how can I support you better?
Absolutely.
And how is it that maybe you got into this, and maybe they'll tell a story that you didn't know about them. Mm-hmm. I love learning about people. Mm-hmm. I love learning their stories. I want to know what makes you tick. How did you get here? What did you have to go through to get to where you are now? Those are the most fascinating moments in my life, is when I'm able to sit with somebody and find out their story. And it's allowed me to be less judgmental. It's allowed me to soften quite a bit. I'm a Taurus, so the bull is not soft. And I've had to learn a lot of hard ways how to become softer. And one of those ways is for me to be able to find out somebody's story, and where maybe I've definitely had conversations with people and I'm just like, they just rub me the wrong way. I don't. And then through my own journey, I've like been able to open up and have conversations and be like, oh, I get why they are the way they are. And I'm seeing, oh, whatever's rubbing them has brought up something in me. And I'm like, okay, so I've learned about them. I can soften a little bit. I understand where you're coming from. And it's also given me an opportunity to maybe work on a little bit of my own stuff. So we're hoping to spark conversation. We want you to be able to also soften and talk to the other girls and your girlfriends and just keep the conversation going. And
to young girls in your life.
To the young girls in your life.
And maybe you wonder, like, are they thinking of doing this? Because they possibly are. Yeah. It's really heavily marketed to them. Yeah, I think we have the luxury that we're not famous. So we can have this conversation. And I think a lot of the conversations we plan on having, they're not being had because people are terrified of being canceled that are famous or have a platform. Well, it's a luxury for us that we don't have that, right? Totally. We just are coming from a place of really wanting women to get whatever message we're trying to put out there, and the men that love the women to know, like the women in their lives, what they might be going through or thinking about. So it is kind of a luxury that we have, that we can say the things we're really thinking. And I already know that people are saying, you know, like, F you, this is how I feed my kids, or help this person. And I totally get that. And that's where I hope it comes through and it's clear that I get it. I get that it appears to be an easy option with little repercussions. And a great way to make money, and probably be able to like not have to have childcare or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you can do it from your bedroom, you can do it at home, all those perks. But then if you search on YouTube is full of girls saying, I did it for 2 months, I feel dead inside. I did it for 2 months, I don't think I can ever have a healthy relationship again. Like, a lot of girls that tried it, and it, like that girl said, after one day it changes you, changed forever. And it's okay to be changed forever, but if you don't have to have that change, it's not a positive change for them. It's something they then have to work through, which maybe that's your journey.
And we haven't even discussed really, like, and we said, like, this may be a couple of episodes. Said it may be another episode, because Becky comes in today and I'm like, whoa, I haven't even thought about all of these things. And there's a lot of different avenues this can go down. But we were saying too, you know, we want to spark conversation, we want to empower women, and we want you to walk away with some food for thought about the other women in your lives. And Becky and I started our friendship because we had these amazing conversations. And we've not agreed on everything, and we've had these deep, deep conversations about a lot of different topics. And we want you to be able to have that. And that's what made us think, oh, okay, maybe this would be good, because maybe other women want to hear this, or maybe other women are also having this, wondering, you know, is anyone else thinking this?
Exactly. They agree, but they're scared to say it because our culture right now is just so to an extreme of, if you say one thing, you are canceled, or everyone in your life is kind of like, how dare you think that way or say that, instead of having these conversations openly. And that's why I'd like to do this again and have someone that has that different opinion for us to talk it through with them and hear their side of like what they think of based on what we're saying. Did it give them food for thought, or did it just make them double down on thinking that we don't know where they're coming from? All that stuff we want to have.
Well, sometimes people too might not. I noticed this a lot actually during COVID, which was people had opinions about things, and then it felt like a lot of people were doubling down, but I was noticing there was a crack, and it was almost like, okay, their opinions were changing, but because they had to double down to be able to stand in it, because they've already said it. And it's like, no, you're allowed to change your opinion. You are allowed, because that's what growth is.
Yes.
And I think Becky and I have this thing that we always say, is that we know nothing.
Yeah,
Because
the older we get,
the older
yeah.
you get, honestly, the biggest wisdom of getting older is realizing that you really know nothing.
Yes.
Because the minute you have figured something out, it changes.
Yeah.
Because everything in this world is moving so quickly and things are always changing.
Which
So-
is why, and that's the crazy thing of people that said things 10 years ago or 15 years ago that were on social media and they're canceled. But like culture and society has evolved over a decade massively.
Yeah.
And there was a reason people might have said things publicly at the time because it was okay to say. It was wrong, you know, but cultures, we're always catching up. Like I have a thing in the program, like we're living in ancient times and we don't know it yet because you don't know that what you're saying is archaic thinking.
Yeah.
Because now we're evolving quicker than ever. So it is a little risky for us to record all these conversations and put it out there because we could evolve and change as we grow and have more information and knowledge. And
God, I hope we do. I
Yeah,
hope we continue. And I hope
exactly.
we can come back and be like, remember that episode?
remember when we used to think this? Exactly.
Yeah.
But I am very open to that happening.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
And I give myself grace that I'd say, well, that's how I thought then. And then I had new information and now it's changed. And yeah, I'm fine with that. One aspect I do really want us to touch on that I only want to touch on it a little bit. Even for me, in the research coming up on this, I found it very dark, very disturbing. But I also, that's where we want to have the tough conversations, and I don't want to shy away from it because I do think I want them to know. And like even, in the footer of OnlyFans, they have an anti-slavery and anti-trafficking statement. And most companies don't need to have a statement like that, right? So
You
right
think?
there, yeah. So that says something. And knowing that 70% of trafficked females are trafficked into the commercial sex industry. And as I said, most of the contributors, it is sort of that classic commercial porn business. We can only assume, and we actually know from people, like there's there's an article I read that, it's titled Paradise for Pimps and Predators. There's so much on there about OnlyFans being a great place for like these e-pimps and predators to find young girls, a source for trafficking girls, or where they're putting trafficked girls now and making even more money off them. So the Anti-Human Trafficking Intelligence Initiative, they did an hour and a half, their research team, on OnlyFans, and that was like in front of paywalls. They said we weren't even going behind the paywalls with what we did. And there were so many indicators of sex trafficking just in that hour and a half, which would be pictures of girls whose appearance and body type suggest they're underage, and conversations between potential sex traffickers discussing how they'd like to use OnlyFans to monetize their victims. The creators or contributors having signs of abuse and coercion. There's bruising, there's tattoos known to be used for sex trafficking. They have expressions of pain. They have the blank gaze, like when you disassociate, signs of being under like influence of a drug, and so much more. That was in an hour and a half in front of the paywalls. So it's very real. Obviously often these, like human trafficking is one of the biggest businesses on earth. I don't, that doesn't get talked about. And obviously OnlyFans, we see how much money they're making. Of course they're going to be there. Of course they're targeting young, innocent, naive girls. And that's where that's how they're getting them. A lot of girls, they make the most money by doing a thing saying it's my 18th birthday, because that's such a popular thing. So as soon as I turned 18, here's my birthday. And they get all these subscribers that want to see this virginous 18-year-old girl.
And yet they're already on there, and they should already have proven that they were 18.
Yes.
So that's a problem right there.
Yes. So they've had some. There is they are under investigation. I will say, to give some, like what's being done about this. So they've been criticized for their insufficiency in preventing child sexual abuse material by circulating on the platform. That's the piece where I had to go and have a cry based on what I read, and I wish I didn't know and could like have a. What do you call that when you take a piece of your brain out? I would like to have a lobotomy over what I read about that. Whew, some of the darkest stuff. So in August 2021, there was a campaign to investigate OnlyFans that began, the U.S. Congress did it. And then in October 21 onward, they were supposed to no longer be allowed to have sexually explicit material. And that pressure came from banks that OnlyFans used for payment providers, which was incredible of these banks. And I really commend them. The CEO said, he told the Financial Times, so after this investigation came out and what was done, and so then this law came into place, but then within 6 days of that happening, from all the contributors and users complaining to OnlyFans, they reversed it.
they found other ways to accept payments, and they went straight back to business as usual.
I was thinking, if they didn't accept the payments, how many girls are not getting paid?
Right. There's other ramifications. Right. So there was this is half a billion people saying like, hey, I want my daily fix or whatever. And the girls, so 6 days later they went.
And they're the ones that suffer the most.
Although I do commend the banks. I've never thought I would commend banks, but I'm like, that's pretty impressive because that's a lot of money. And then a BBC Three documentary, which if you're very interested in this and you don't mind the sort of upsetting angle, they like a third of Twitter profiles globally were advertising nudes for sale or similar belong to underage girls from Twitter. And many of them, they use Twitter to get people in their OnlyFans. They're using their social media accounts. That's how they get them. So this like underage angle is a big draw, which I think we all know throughout like the history of time. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children said that there was 100 instances of child sexual abuse material on OnlyFans per year.
Wow.
Those instances were what I found very, very upsetting to read. So warning on that if you want to go down there, which is ironically small compared to like MindGeek owned companies. So MindGeek is that company in Montreal that owns like Pornhub. I don't know they own the biggest porn companies in the world. They own all of them and they're based in Quebec. They had around 13,000 cases in a year. So compared that to the 100 on OnlyFans. They have 3 of the 10 most popular porn sites in the world. And one of their spokespeople said they were among the top 5 users of internet bandwidth in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So Twitter accounted for 65,000 of the underage kids' ads and attracting in a year, and Facebook 20 million. So this is a whole other topic of what's going on social media. Another 2021 study where they looked at how women were being impacted on OnlyFans, and it was that they're being dehumanized, harassed, and facing prejudice, the contributors on there. On June 3rd of this year, so very recently, the UK communications regulator said it will investigate OnlyFans for not doing enough to prevent children from accessing porn, because that's the other angle. All the young boys presumably, that are now going on OnlyFans, and it's super easy for them to get on there. So now they're being investigated in that. And to be honest, I think if the UK government or these banks make it too hard for them, they will just move, right? They'll just move their office somewhere else. But I commend the UK government for starting to look into that and pay attention to this.
And making it challenging so that,
But also 1,000 people work there. That's 1,000 people jobs, right? In the UK.
Hopefully by making it challenging for them, there's a period of time that maybe some change can happen. But the question is, what is that change?
Yes.
Yeah.
So much around this topic, and I don't know. I think I would love to do another episode where we do in the new year, maybe where we have a guest.
And I wouldn't even mind discussing too, like from the other angles, we've talked about these girls and the impact it's had on these girls, but we haven't even discussed the impact on boys and men and what that's doing to them, because they're also being damaged by all of this.
This whole generation of boys that are coming that don't see the need to be in relationships.
Yeah. And don't understand what healthy sex is. So having, your whole sexual history and relationship be based on porn.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. And having conversation, too, with other women, I find very fascinating, and a very big common thread is the lack of intimacy and connection that women are having with their men. And that is pulling a bit of a wedge between them and not wanting to maybe have sex with their husbands because there isn't that intimacy. And women need that. We need that connection. And so if you're with a man who's shut down, then where is that intimacy going to come from? And maybe that is driving a wedge in your sex life. And maybe that is why some of these men are going and having their quick fix. And then they don't have to show any emotion or be attached.
Yeah.
So there's
these 400 million men that are married.
So there's a whole other aspect to this that I think is much bigger. And I have haven't enjoyed having these conversations with different women. And I'm really finding there's a very big thread, because there's a very big narrative out there that, women have, lower sex drives than men. I'm going to question that. I am really going to question that. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I'm also going to say, what is part of that? What's driving part of that? And is that the lack of intimate connection that women feel from their husbands or their partners? And so I'd love to kind of dive into that a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of women will want to tune in and find out what we've uncovered. And just from it actually hasn't been a little bit of conversation. It's been actually quite a few conversations I've had about this. And coming back to the same thing all the time. I'm like, oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. So maybe going into what is it that women are looking for?
Of women saying, I don't feel intimacy with my husband.
Yeah, they're feeling like there's this disconnect. But there's got to be, because over 60% of their husbands are going in and finding it somewhere else. So there's got to be some emotional shutdown there. Mm-hmm. And women are feeling it. And they're trying to figure out what's wrong with them. And it's like, oh, is there something wrong with you? That's a pretty big question mark I'm going to put by that.
Yeah.
Or is there something wrong with society?
That's what I think, yeah.
And not, because I don't want to put it on the men, because I think it's like there's a narrative going on. So this is not men bashing in any way. It's literally bringing up these questions and trying to figure out what is it. And personally, I think there's a narrative out there that's going on. And it is pulling men and women apart, not bringing them together. Mm-hmm. And I think we're seeing more and more and more of this happening.
Yeah.
So I'd love to maybe have more conversations with men about what is really going on with them.
We better do that before we start video. Yeah. We want to get the truth. We want them to talk openly.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was happy to see some serious people researching this, because that's the problem. We're living it right now.
Yes.
This just skyrocketed during the pandemic. We're all still coming out of the fact that we were in a pandemic and studying that. And so we don't know the impact on society from these relationships. This is one of
this I think has been going on for a long time.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, OnlyFans is new, but porn isn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this has been happening for a really long time.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I think society is got a very different expectation of how men show up in the world compared to how women show up in the world.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, women, as we said, we've been objectified for our bodies.
Well, I started watching Mad Men, and I watched it when it first came out, and I needed something that I didn't have to think, because I'm so exhausted at night. Yeah. And I was like, what can I do? And it just, as Netflix does, it brings up stuff for suggestions. And I was like, oh, I think I like that. And I started watching it, and I found myself getting really irritated by it. And I'm just interesting that I went back to watch Mad Men, which is exactly the conversations that we're having. It's what society tells men how to show up, and how they have treated women since the late 50s, well, anytime in the 50s, but this is late 50s, early 60s that this is starting out. But oh my gosh, wow, it's very, very sad. And I'm feeling like things have changed, but we've still got the same issues.
No. I mean, the sexual harassment that goes on in all the big corporations. Yeah. I mean, over 25 years in the corporate world, I can tell, I have endless stories of either to me or other women that I know. I think the Me Too movement definitely helped with that a bit, but you can't deny. And as you said, it's not about blaming the men. It is kind of what's culturally appropriate or pushed, or what are they being brainwashed with the images that they're seeing every day of how it's okay to treat a woman or not. And certainly the stuff in porn is very disturbing.
Very disturbing.
Of how it's okay to treat a woman. Anyways, that's a whole other pod.
Well, we discussed at some point in time, we've talked about Call Her Daddy, and what the messaging that she's giving young girls, which didn't think about it to this very moment, but I'm wondering if that messaging is also driving some young girls to OnlyFans too. So I'm kind of curious. I don't know. I'm not saying it is.
Yeah.
It's just that we've had some, let's just say we've had some thoughts
Yeah.
about the messaging, not her personally,
Yeah.
just the messaging that she is giving young girls. And we've both been a little bit horrified. By
And
some
to
of
be
that
fair
message.
to her, like I've tried a couple episodes where she interviewed people that I like. And so that's my exposure to her. And I didn't like the messaging. I didn't like what she was saying and how it would impact young girls, I thought, because I'm always putting things through that lens. And so I don't want to listen to more. So I haven't listened to a lot. So I'm making this off 2 interviews I saw of things she's saying. And I'm like, what are you telling these? Because I know she is worshipped by a lot of young girls. And that's the part that scares me.
I can't remember how I found her. I found her somewhere. Maybe she popped up as a suggestion or something. But I remember I kept seeing it and I'm just like, oh, it's a weird title. And I'm just like, but it's catchy. So, and I was really curious, what does that mean? And I remember listening to an episode with my jaw on the floor. And then I told you and you're like, what? I can't believe you listened to this. And I'm like, I can't believe I listened to it either. And then I was like, you know, I want to listen to more episodes. And you're like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, because I'm trying to figure out what is it that she's trying to put out there. Like, I don't understand, like, what is the purpose of this podcast? And then the more I went into it, the more I'm just like, whoa, this is like the complete opposite of how I see the world moving forward. And yet this is a person who has a huge influence on a huge demographic.
What I think the top 3 podcasts in the world.
Yeah. And then from that, actually, I think from that alone was one of the first times we had a really big conversation and we were like, we should do a podcast.
Yeah.
Because it is, it's shocking.
Yeah. I think it's a much more niche message, but I just want to put that food for thought out there. As we said, another way to think about being a young girl in the world, or a woman, or whoever, you know, that cares about other girls that are being raised in this wild time.
Yeah. Well, I always love what Dr. Phil says. How's that working for you? That's one of my
You say
favorite.
that. You
I
say
do,
that to me a
'cause
lot.
It's one of my favorite questions to ask people.
Yeah.
When people say things, and then I'm just like, well, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
And if the answer is it's not, well, then there's your answer right there. Then you need to figure out how to make change. And so I'm going to throw that out there to people in general in your life. What's working, what's not working. If it's not working, that's your indication. It's time for change. It's time for something else.
Yeah. We'll leave it there.
We will leave it there.